Hi, this is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. Well, let's talk about the importance of protein, particularly for dudes over 30 and those who really want to avoid the dad bod look. And one of the great, horrible jokes that nature seems to pull on males in particular, but it happens to everybody, is, your first 30 years of life, you can virtually eat anything and your body is going to grow muscle and lean tissue, because that's all hormonally driven. That's when you're awash in testosterone, and testosterone naturally builds muscles, and you're going to be fine. That's why I don't listen to young vegan influencers, or really anybody that's under 30 as an influencer as far as my health is concerned, because they haven't hit 30 yet, and whatever the heck they're doing is, if you're doing virtually anything and eating a halfway decent diet, you should be able to remain relatively healthy. I mean, it's not that hard until you're about 30 years old. After that, things get a little bit harder because Mother Nature and the hormones ain't there to help you. Now, then you've got to switch over to a really pretty strict diet, and you really got to watch, the amount of exercise you're doing in order to remain strong. So that's one of the great jokes that nature plays on us. But let's talk about what sources of protein should you get and how they are combined. And there's a series of studies. I really hope I'll include the links to each of the studies below so you can look them up on your own. But they are fascinating when you look at them in their totality. The first one is the importance of combining fat with your protein. Now, this may sound like an appeal to nature, but I do want you to realize that, nature, almost every source of protein that I can think of that's meat-based or eggs or whatever, is always combined with fat. And that is by design. This is what we ate as a species. This is what allowed us to develop great big brains and very little guts. You compare us to other primates. We have the smallest guts on the, and fewest intestines and all that stuff because we don't ferment food in our system. You look at apes that are eating a lot of plant material. Well, they're eating almost 20 hours a day, chomping down stuff, and they've got this huge hind gut that allows them to ferment stuff, trying to get every bit of nutrition out of it. And that's not even always enough. They try to supplement their diet with as many critters as they can possibly get their hands on. So, but that's a small side point. But let's talk about the combination of the fat and the protein. And this is, I think, a brilliantly designed study. What they did was they took 10 guys that were, and they were people that were training, and they compared them. And what they gave half the group protein, they both got the same amount of protein in both groups, but one group got it just all egg whites and the other one got whole eggs. And they, at the end of the study, they compared the two of them, and they did muscle biopsies, and they tagged the stuff rather brilliantly so they could tell if that protein, how that protein was coming in. And it turns out that the people that were getting the whole eggs were creating more mTOR, more muscle synthesis. And that meant they were stronger, they had more lean tissue, because they were getting the fat along with the protein. Those that were getting the same amount of protein, sans the fat, basically egg whites, were not getting as much lean tissue. And that, my hats are off to the guys that took part in that study. I appreciate it, because a muscle biopsy sucks, because you have to take a piece of the muscle tissue out of somebody's body and it hurts, but they did it and they muscled through, and I appreciate it for the cause of science. And it proves something very important, that if you think you are getting adequate protein by eating an egg white omelet, you're fooling yourself. You need that saturated fat to go along with it if your goal is to build lean tissue. And lean tissue, I can't emphasize this enough, that as you get older, you want more of it. One of the things I have against Wegovy, one of the things I have against starvation diets is people lose almost as much lean tissue as they do fat with those type of starvation diets. They're not building muscle, and you need the muscle in order to age well. Now, the other study was, well, I'm old. I'm over 70. I can't build muscle. And that's frankly not true. There was a New Zealand study that I want to really emphasize today, which they took a bunch of older guys and they started them off on a walking program, and they doubled the amount of protein that half the group got. And when you did that, they all had tremendous gains in lean tissue. They got more muscle. So that's what you want. And you can do it even as you're over 70. Now, the other thing you got to realize about protein is you need to eat at least 4 to 7 ounces of meat in one big sitting. You can't scatter it throughout the day if you want it to make a difference. And this is a study that was done a few years ago that compared, basically what they were looking for was what's called the bolus dose. What is a dose? What do you have to do in order to create an mTOR response or muscle? What do you have to do to get the body to start synthesizing muscle from the protein? And it turns out that you need about 4 ounces minimum of meat or eggs in order to start to synthesize that in the form of muscle. So get adequate amounts of meat in as much as you can in a meal. And one of the cool things I love about being carnivore is that just makes it relatively simple. I only eat twice a day. So, and both meals are very protein heavy. There's some people like Sean Baker that can sit down and chow down on 3 to 4 pounds of meat in one sitting. That's his only meal for the day. But I've had bariatric surgery. I don't have that option. My stomach can't hold enough. So I'll break my meals up into 2 parts, but I guarantee you I am certainly eating more than 7 ounces of meat at any given meal, which is great because that is what's going to be required to create muscle synthesis. So when you exercise and you're stimulating your muscles and you're getting at least 4 to 7 ounces of meat at any given meal, you're creating more lean tissue. And frankly, that's what you need more of as you get older, particularly after age 30, which is what you're going to need to get stronger. Now, there are some studies that some people will point to that says, look, there's been studies that with overweight people that showed that you can't, that increasing protein doesn't increase the amount of lean tissue. And what was fascinating about that study was it kind of proves the idea that you need to get at least 4 to 7 ounces of protein in any given setting, because what they did when they increased the amount of protein is they scattered that out over 5 meals. And when you scatter it out over time, you don't get the mTOR response. And they kind of proved exactly what the other earlier studies showed. Now here's another question, and I hear this quite a bit in bodybuilding circles. This is one of these old myths that may not die for a long time, but it's still floating around. And that is this. Is there, any truth to the idea that if you eat more than 25 grams of protein in a single meal, that it's all wasted? And finally, somebody put that myth to rest. The idea came from some old studies where the only way they could measure the amount of protein in the system was look at your nitrogen levels, because when protein is complicated chemistry, but that's what they were looking at. Well, they've revisited that study and they found out that no, when you sit down and you chow down on 3 to 4 pounds of meat, certainly more than 25 grams of protein, your body is more than capable of utilizing it, and utilizing it effectively for mTOR and muscle growth. Matter of fact, the more the merrier. Anything over 4 ounces is what you need to stimulate the mTOR growth. So, every now and then take a look at how much meat you're eating at any given meal. Make sure that you're getting, it's not going to make a difference unless you're getting at least 4 ounces. That's kind of the minimum, and hopefully more than that. And when it's mixed with that, you're going to stimulate mTOR, increase your muscle, lean tissue mass. That's what you need in order to grow successfully, maintain your muscle. Hold on to it, just as much as you would hold on to your cash, because the more muscle you've got, the stronger you're going to be, the better you're going to age. I'm not saying that you're going to live longer or live forever because you've got muscle mass, but trust me, you don't want to lose it. I mean, unless your goal in life is to be in a wheelchair, living in a bed, and sitting in your own poo all the time. You want to maintain the muscle mass because that allows you to move and to not be sedentary. One of the people I visit once a week he broke his hip, and then he broke his leg, and he is stuck in a bed. And it is heartbreaking over the last few months to watch somebody who used to be 6'3" and robust just absolutely waste away in a matter of months. I mean, his skin is just sagging. Every time I walk in on him, I wonder if he's still alive. He just looks like his eyes are sunken in because he can't move. He's bedridden, and once that happens, you start losing your appetite. It's a ghastly way to go. I don't want that. I want to be as robust and strong as I possibly can until I'm not alive anymore. So, but that's kind of your choice. And the way you avoid wasting away is by maintaining an adequate level of protein. And the older you get, the more you need. And you need to mix it with saturated fat. And these are the type of things that you're not going to hear in the mainstream news. You're not going to get it from your government. You're not going to get it from your doctor because they're all terrified of saturated fat. But in order to make protein synthesis work, to create lean tissue, they have to go together. This is Kirk, the Bariatric Carnivore. I hope that you like this message. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe. Join this channel. Join with other people. I try to put out a couple of messages each week. I will talk to you again soon.